Good morning, everyone. Can I first pay tribute to the Wurundjeri people upon whose traditional lands we're gathered today? Also pay my respects to the generations who've gone before, as well as their descendants. It's important to note that the energy transition is inevitably destined to impact the landscapes and seascapes that have been and still are the ancestral homes of First Nations people since time immemorial. It's incumbent upon our industry to ensure that current and future generations of First Nations people are fully engaged and effectively involved in projects that are hosted on their traditional estates. I'm asked today to share my thoughts on how we might go about breaking bottlenecks and accelerating the pace of the energy transition. In addressing this topic, I believe it's necessary to first acknowledge that the task of decarbonising the economy in general and the power system in particular is complex, ambitious and expensive. We're transforming a highly capital-intensive fundamental element of our national economy and our society. We also need to remind ourselves that the transformation is not optional. The national fleet of coal generators is rapidly approaching the end of their service life. Hence, it needs to be replaced. Replacement needs to produce the lowest cost unit of energy for consumers and industry. This is widely accepted as being firmed renewable generation. It's not cheap, but it is cheaper than the alternatives. It's also significantly more attractive to investors and lenders than coal or nuclear plant. The reason I'm labouring this point is because accelerating the pace of the transition requires focused effort and shared commitment. The continued politicisation of the power system and the technologies that it relies upon remain the single greatest risk to a successful transition, despite the current government receiving a clear mandate for the direction they outlined at the May election. If we're to gather significant additional momentum, we must strive to achieve national political consensus on the transition that will deliver confidence to the capital markets and energy market participants. That said, notwithstanding the corrosive impact of the so-called energy wars, we should also recognise that much progress has been made. As a result, we currently have reasonably solid foundations upon which to build new momentum into delivering the energy transition. The fundamentals are good. Providence has blessed us with abundant supplies of renewable energy fuels. The national and key state governments have introduced an integrated set of targets, programs and policies that are designed to prime investment. The market operator and market regulator have for many years engaged constructively with industry to resolve many of the challenges associated with connection and access to the grid, as well as power system reliability and resilience. And finally, the key companies driving the transition are committed to working in collaboration with local and state governments to maximise the benefits to regional communities as well as the environment. In this context, apart from a coherent, stable policy framework that enjoys bipartisan support, a truly national plan on transmission is to me the next highest priority. Our current grid is a federation of state-based transmission and distribution networks linking thermal fuel deposits to loads. The future grid needs to be designed as a truly national network that collects and transfers energy from regions rich in wind and solar resources into main load centres. In an ideal world, that would involve capturing the high-quality wind and solar resources that are to be found in the semi-arid parts of inland New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia and North Queensland, as well as the Bass Strait. At present, there is only very limited ability to access these resources via parts of the network. To truly accelerate the transition and future-proof the power system with high-grade renewable generation would require an intergenerational commitment to a national transmission plan that could progressively and incrementally be implemented as a national priority. The second requirement to accelerate the energy transition is for both industry and government to significantly raise the bar on delivering the benefits of the transition to regional Australia. Industry and government can deliver greater dividends to regional communities than we've achieved to date. This means designing and implementing an integrated strategy to train and employ regional Australians, maximise the opportunities for Australian small, medium and large businesses in the supply chain, develop strategic infrastructure plans with local and state governments to ensure that better regional infrastructure is a positive legacy of the energy transition, and harness the transition to catalyse new forms of economic regional growth. Thirdly, we need to work with planning and environment agencies at the state and national level to ensure that our approval processes are legible, efficient and transparent. These processes also must genuinely and effectively protect and preserve Australia's natural and cultural values. The existing legislative schemes at both the Commonwealth and state level have largely failed to either facilitate sustainable development in a timely manner or protect our biodiverse ecosystems. Accordingly, developers have wasted considerable time and resources on projects that ultimately prove non-viable, and equally, material risks to nature remain unaddressed or responses suboptimal. Fourthly, we need to refine the energy market design to restore the confidence of the capital markets and energy market participants. One outworking of the energy culture wars has been that market-based signals have been increasingly demonised, leaving governments with few levers other than direct action to ensure certainty of supply is maintained while pursuing decarbonisation objectives. While these interventions may achieve their primary purpose in the short run, this often compromises the overall integrity of the market. Perversely, this has resulted in coal plant necessarily lingering for longer, underinvestment in gas peaking capacity to facilitate the exit of coal, and financial support to underpin new renewable investment, undermining the economics of incumbent renewable generation. To end on a final note, despite these challenges, there is cause for optimism. First, many of the critical enhancements of the grid are beginning to mature, particularly in Victoria, South Australia, New South Wales and parts of Queensland. All these projects are integral to a truly national transmission plan that harnesses the highest quality renewable resources available with relatively low social and environmental impacts. Secondly, there's a growing consensus across industry and government agencies about the need to upgrade the value proposition that we offer regional communities. As a result, many examples of intercompany collaboration are beginning to emerge to maximise economic, social and environmental benefits of the transition at a regional level and minimise adverse impacts. Thirdly, the current reform process relating to the EPBC Act contains the promise of introducing a national assessment and decision-making process that is science-based, strategic and streamlined. It is hoped that this can be achieved in a way that effectively integrates national and state planning processes and is appropriately resourced. Finally, the Productivity Commission review of the future market, while still underway, holds promise of reintroducing market-based principles into the market design and reversing the trend for increasing levels of intervention by government. It's to be hoped that this will lead to timely investment in new entrant renewable generation and storage that will provide sufficient confidence for governments to facilitate the orderly retirement of coal units in a structured and predictable way. It's for these reasons, despite the challenges that we all deal with on a daily basis, that I believe there are strong grounds for optimism when it comes to our ability to accelerate the pace of the transition and deliver a decarbonised power system of the future that is affordable and reliable, as well as environmentally and socially responsible. Thank you so much.